everything legit. The Nimi Meta Podcast.
Everything legit, the Nimi Meta Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. We are here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. I feel like I'm getting happier and happier every time I do an episode. I feel like it's therapy as well. I was talking to my husband about this. I feel like me in a room alone talking to you guys, you know, expressing everything that I'm feeling is really therapy. Before I get into episode 2, I want to say a big thank you to my location sponsors for Everything Legit Season 2, and that is Rove Hotels downtown, their podcast studio, which is absolutely beautiful. It's going to be my home for Season 2, so I'm so thankful to them. I also want to say a big thank you to Nikon, who are my photography partners, shooting this whole thing for you as well. If you're more of a visual person and less of a ear person, a listening person, then you can check out my podcast episodes on YouTube and clips of it as well on Instagram at the Nimi Meta. Right, let's get into this, shall we? You've seen the episode title, 2020. What else you got? This has been an interesting one, and I kind of didn't know how to tackle the whole 2020 thing on my podcast because I feel like, the chat around how difficult 2020 has been is just, I feel like it's just been inundated, on social media, in all of our conversations. I feel personally quite drained from it. I don't know about you, but I'm getting quite sick of the conversation. Yes, we get it. We are almost a year into a global pandemic. Yes, it's been an incredibly tough year. I mean, for a lot more other people than for some. I mean, people have lost their jobs, people have lost family, friends, and I mean, my love goes out to you. It has just been a tragic time for a lot of people. Personally, for me, I feel incredibly blessed to have come out of 2020 the way I have. I recognize that I'm incredibly privileged and I'm in a bubble and I'm very lucky. But what I've learned is that privilege doesn't mean that everything that you're feeling, the emotions that you're feeling aren't valid. And when I say privilege, I mean, the fact that I was able to maintain a job throughout 2020, that I had personal issues going on at the same time. I had my whole calendar booked out for work, for events, for hosting, and I was so excited for it. When you express yourself and people say to you, yeah, well, some people have it worse off. 100% that is the case. And I couldn't agree with it more. They 100% do. And I feel like you do need to check yourself, to make sure, okay, does she get it? Do you get it that people actually have it a lot worse off than you and you're incredibly blessed? And I do, 100%. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to express how I'm feeling in my situation. And that's why I'm super lucky to have family and friends around me who totally get that. And I hope you do too, because that's a really, really important thing, especially in 2020. Mental health has had, a lot of spotlight on it because of what everyone's been going through. And I just want everyone to know that it's okay to speak to someone, even if it's me you want to speak to. Please feel free to DM me. I do respond to my DMs, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you and help you in any way I can. But 2020, yeah, my hopes and ambitions for 2020 were very different to the way it turned out, same as a lot of people around the world. Work-wise, like I said, I was packed out. Season 1 of Everything Legit was going so well, and I was so excited. I had some incredible people coming into Dubai, interviewing them for my podcast, and then boof, it just stopped. And I think all of us were pretty naive when we were all like, oh yeah, this is probably going to be over in a few weeks. Don't worry, everything will be back to normal. And here we are almost a year later. And it was a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, for 3 months, I was stuck in the UK. And when I say stuck, quite literally stuck. The UAE closed its borders to everyone, understandably so. And so I wasn't able to get back in to the place I call home. But I was also in another home, which is where I was so lucky to be, in my parents' home, with my sister, my parents, my dog. And it was just the most wonderful time. I don't know how else to explain it. During it, I was really stressing out because I wasn't able to get back into the UAE. There were moments where I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. My anxiety was, just going crazy. But now looking back on it, and that's why hindsight is a beautiful thing. And that's what I feel like a lot of people are doing right now, looking back on their 2020 and actually thinking, you know what? It was amazing. I learned so much. Even if I went through horrible things, I learned so much. And I want to focus on the positives of 2020. The 3 months in the UK just made me reflect a lot. And if you know, actually during that time, I also felt really antsy. And I'm sure you did as well. I felt like I should be doing more towards my life, towards my career. But what made me stop and realize was the whole world is in this situation. It's not just me. I'm not behind anyone. No one's ahead of me. We are all, for the first time in history, all in the same space, which is cooped up in our homes. Physical space was the same, as well as mental space, which was, what on earth do we do now? So I feel like a lot of us reacted differently. I was kind of like scrapping the barrel because I wasn't, on the radio for the first month. I was freaking out that I was going to lose my job. I was freaking out I didn't have my podcast running. So that's why, you saw at the end of season 1, I got a few guests on via Zoom, which was awesome. My good friend John Lee, as well as James Asquith. And we spoke about so many different things, which was great. So I wanted to keep that alive. But I didn't feel like I was being authentic to myself. I felt like I was pushing it because I felt like I had to stay relevant. And here's the thing about staying relevant. You don't need to. What is relevant? Who is relevant? Especially in the middle of a global pandemic. Honestly, looking back now, I just feel stupid because I'm like, Nimi, you should have just sat back and relaxed and enjoyed the moment. And I think that's what 2020 has been about. Making us all stop and just realize how good we've got it, what we need to change moving forward. It's exactly what I needed. I needed a recharge. And if you know me, if you don't know me, you may know someone like this. I am a big planner. I need to have everything planned in advance. I need to know exactly where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing. I need a schedule. I need a calendar. I mean, I plan things to a T. I'm a very list person, right? So I've got a to-do list every single day that might change every single hour, and I resend it to myself so I know what I'm doing. So you can imagine how this year may have been for us planners. It just completely wrecked everything. And I found some freedom in not needing to plan. At first, yes, it was absolute manic in my head. It was like little people running around in my head. Just imagine that, throwing things about, just completely shaking, rattling the whole place. That's how my brain felt. And I felt like I was letting myself down. I felt like, oh my God, all my dreams and ambitions and goals are washing away. And then something just clicked. And that was when I saw my dad and my mom, and I was waking up every day in my home. I was a grown adult who had a life in a different country. But there I was with the blessed opportunity with 3 months non-stop with people I never thought I would live with again. And a lot of us feel that. For anyone who's moved to a different country, any time you have with your family is precious. You may have a week here, 2 weeks here, and then you've got to fly back. With me, it was 3 months, and it was so lovely. I'm so blessed, and I'm so lucky to have the family that I have and the home that we have. And, the UK was very different to the UAE, but the planning situation was really freaking me out. I dropped so much weight during that time. I don't know how. I was eating loads of junk. Again, it was the stress. It was the sleepless nights. It was the control, and it was the letting go of the control that was a process for me. And that's what I want to talk about is how do we let go of that control? Put the global pandemic aside, right? I know that's hard because we're still in it, but just put that aside for a second. How can you live your life with already preempting what is going to happen tomorrow before it's even happened? There is absolutely no guarantee that it's going to happen. And now, because I've released myself from that thought, I feel like, how did you even think that in the first place, Nimi? How did you think you could control everything that was going to happen tomorrow, next week, in a month's time, in a year's time? In what world did you think you were? And I feel like I was always that person growing up. I always felt like that. When I was a teenager, when I was a kid, when I was at university, I felt like I was in 100% control of my future and everything that was coming my way. And anything that would be an obstacle or surprise me or anything that wasn't planned really, really threw me off. And it was a really unhealthy cycle, because imagine this, you're on a racetrack, something throws you off, it throws you off your rhythm. What it takes for you to get back into that rhythm is more draining than the actual race you're running. I hope that makes sense. Going off on an obstacle and getting yourself back on track is more exhausting than the actual race. And that's how I felt. I felt, Nimi, look what you're doing every single time is panicking and feeling like you have to go back onto track. What about just building a new track as you go, as the events change and things unfold? What about that? How does that feel? And that's exactly what I had to do this year. I was doing a radio show live from London, which was not easy. It was really difficult to do. Imagine I'm used to being in a studio with my co-host and feeling the energy of the people, feeling his energy and feeling great. And it wasn't that. I was in a study at home with a little microphone trying to figure things out. Again, uncertainty with a job. There is no worse feeling, especially when you live in a country where you really rely on your job to keep you there. So that was the case. I thought, is my life as I know it about to change? Am I going to have to move back to the UK, move back into my parents' house? What about me, my husband? We were planning, at this point, he hadn't moved out to Dubai yet. We were planning for him to move there. What if now we're not going to live in Dubai anymore? We haven't even bought a house here in the UK. Oh my goodness, we're almost 30 years old. We should have one property under our name at least. We need to invest. Oh my goodness, did I save enough? Can you just imagine all of these things just going through an overthinker's mind? Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. But that's the beautiful thing, is that I realized it's not important, and everything was put into perspective. People were losing lives across the world in incredible scales, and there I was in the comfort of my own home, lucky enough to be breathing, lucky enough to look around the room and have everyone that I love with me. And so I had major epiphanies. I had major moments where I started to even question my career. Instead of my career questioning me, I was questioning my career. I was sat there having serious thoughts to myself that maybe what I'm doing isn't what I want to be doing. And that sounds crazy, right? But I feel like everyone was having that thought. Maybe what I'm doing is not what I want to be doing. Maybe I got into it and I always knew I wanted to be a presenter. I always knew I wanted to be a journalist, and I pushed it to this point, but maybe now it's time to change my path. And for an overthinker, for an overplanner, to even think that is absolutely absurd. But I was having those thoughts and I was really enjoying those thoughts. And here's what I mean about recharging, recreating yourself. I thoroughly feel like I've recreated myself this year, and I'm so proud of myself. And I'm so grateful to my family and friends for having these long, boring conversations with me. The amount of times I've said to my husband, hey, I just want to drop everything, move to India, become really spiritually inclined, find myself, be one with myself, because I was really, really having an identity crisis. And I know so many of you can relate to this, because I got so many DMs from people as well that were feeling the same. I didn't want to be on Instagram. I didn't want to be on social media. I didn't want to be Nimi Mehta anymore. I was in such a rut of being Nimi Mehta. And when I say being Nimi Mehta, who's that? Well, it was someone who was waking up at 4 o'clock every morning, being at work at 5 o'clock, starting a show at 6 o'clock, finishing the show at 10 o'clock, and staying busy every day, meetings, working, hosting stages, filming, doing the podcast. And I feel like I was overrun. I feel like my battery was running really low. And I remember in February, I was saying to my mum, I'm exhausted. I feel exhausted. I feel like my body's tired, but my mind and my soul is so tired. And she was just like, maybe what you need is a break. Maybe you need time off. And I was like, Mum, I can't. I've got a whole 6 months ahead of me planned. I've got shows and events that I'm hosting locked in. What can I do? I can't turn away from these. This is what I've wanted my whole life. How can I walk away from it right now, even though that's all I want to do? And when I spoke to my dad, you know, I feel like dads are a lot more matter of fact and a lot more black and white. Mums get a lot of emotion wrapped up into it. My dad was like, drop everything. If you feel like you don't want to do anything anymore, who's telling you you have to do it? Only you are telling you have to do it. And so there I was, questioning everything. Do I even want to live in Dubai anymore? Got to that point. Do I even want to live in Dubai anymore? Would it just be easier to move back to the UK, become a housewife? My husband is earning well here. We'll get a house, I'll have babies, and I'll be absolutely fine. It's a version of a life that I would be happy with, so I'll get on with it. And then there was this just voice inside my head, but this also fire in my soul, which knew I just wasn't done. And my sister kept reminding me of this. She calls me Didi, which means older sister. It's a respecting term that we use in our language. She's like, Didi, you would become so depressed if you didn't have your own identity. And I was like, really? Do you think that? Yeah, absolutely. If you didn't have your own job, if you didn't have your own income, if you didn't have your own life and something away from, you know, just the everyday societal norms, you'll go crazy. And I thought about it, or I reminded myself of when I was unemployed for 2 years sitting in the UK before I moved to the UAE. And all I craved was to be a presenter. That's all I wanted. I felt like my life depended on it. And now I have it and then some. And I was ready to let go of it. And not let go of it in a bad way. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing what I do and I absolutely love it. But I came to a crossroad where I was like, is it enough? Am I done now? Have I given it everything? Is there room for me to progress? Do I just want to start my own business now and not stress myself out with, you know, being someone who's out there in the public and putting their life out there like I do out on this podcast and on my show? And I realized, no, I'm not finished. I am not finished. And I'm so happy that I even have the opportunity to do this. So many people would kill for my job. So many people, you know, see my job as quite an easy one. It's not. You know, yes, it is talking for a living, but it's definitely a difficult one. You know, no matter what's happened in your day, whether you're ill, whether you've had a fight with someone, whether you're in the biggest mood ever, imagine having to fake it or put a mic up and act like everything is okay when it's not okay. It's a really, really difficult thing. And, you know, I made a decision with myself that it's definitely something I want to continue to do. But I want to do it better than I did before. And that is exactly why I took time off from doing this podcast, because I thought, you know what, I'm going to bring it back when I'm ready, when I feel refreshed, when I feel recharged. And here we are. I want to end this on a positive note with 2020. This year has definitely seen me making new friends. I don't know if you know me, and you may know a lot of people like me. I'm just not the type of person that makes friends easily. And that comes as a surprise because I talk so much and I'm like such a big energy. I am really guarded when it comes to meeting new people. And it may come across as really bitchy, and it sometimes comes across, what I've heard is like that I don't care and I'm really cold and I come across really stuck up. And my friends will tell you this as well, because that's probably what they experienced when they first met me. But this year changed me. I've made new friends via Zoom because I was interviewing them for the show, and then we just got talking. Then I came back to Dubai. Now we've been hanging out. That for me would be unheard of. Also, I feel like I just started appreciating life more. Little things like going to the beach. I used to hate it. I used to be so uptight. I didn't like getting the sand on me. I didn't like getting wet. I thought it was dirty. Now, all you will do is catch me at the beach or in a pool or in the water. I absolutely love it. I am so grateful to 2020 for making me present. I am so grateful to 2020 for making me present, because before the global pandemic, I feel like I was a shell of my former self running around doing what I thought I had to do. And now I'm someone who recognizes the things I don't have to do for other people, the things I don't need to do for myself. I can actually change direction. I don't have to plan my life out. Nothing is going to go the way that you planned. And 2020 has brought me beautiful people, and it's reintroduced me to myself. I feel a lot more liberated. I feel a lot more empowered, and I genuinely cannot wait for what 2021 has in offer. I'm so excited professionally, personally, spiritually, to see where this takes me as well. So fingers crossed, we're going to go through it. You know how it is here on Everything Legit. I really do keep it quite raw and honest. You know what? My opinion might change in a few months' time. We'll see. But I really appreciate you for listening to episode 2. If you haven't heard season 1, by the way, do go back and have a listen. You'll probably, catch me saying a few of the same things, but maybe I sound very different now. Maybe I sound a bit more free. I feel a lot more free, actually, for season 2. I hope you've noticed. Listen, feel free to Instagram, DM me at the Nimi Meta. I love your feedback always. Any topics that you feel like you'd like me to expand on or feel like you related to, I would love for you to get in touch. Also, please do subscribe to this podcast. I love to see the numbers go up. And if you would like to rate it as well as leave comments, I'd appreciate that too. Do share it with your family and friends. Until episode 3, sending you so much peace and love. Take care.